So at the outset, or at the beginning, looking at maps was my way into the topic, and then once I had got more confidence about even mentioning the name, because a lot of people want you to prove your theory immediately as soon as you start talking about it, and you can't talk. I mean, you can't keep backtracking and defending even the name itself, which unfortunately is still a spelling error. Type it into a word processor or a search engine. But it got quite exciting when I realized how the name was built or how the name was constructed. So the tar or the tar part of it was a word for the color black. So Tartar was a word for the for the black swarthy complexion of a human, um, which is really useful in identifying the origin of the lineage itself, which is what fascinates me. Specifically, my own lineage, which ends up going all the way back to Iran, and then also the history of Europe, which I'll touch on later. But I have to avoid certain topics in order to introduce Tartaria within like an hour, right? So Grand Tartary was the largest landmass that was labeled uh, Tartaria. Great time to move on to the map. Yeah, thank you very much, Elizabeth. Um, I mean, this is what really got me excited because there are a lot of these, and they are all different. They all originate in different parts of the world, specifically Europe, the where a lot of maps came from. People seem to be able to travel um, in larger fleets of ships, which had some chance of someone returning. You must remember in the 16th century, if you were to travel to another part of the world, it would usually end with um, a large percentage of the crew of your ship not return from scurvy, even though they began to solve that by um, having fresh lemons on board and a lot of alcohol was used. Alcohol also is very important in ascertaining how the migrations happened with the Tartarian Empire, with the Moorish Empire, with the Slavs, the Europeans. Um, if you have a high um, uh, uh, sort of threshold when it comes to alcohol, then I think from that you can almost determine someone's origin, or at least uh, in broad strokes, you can sort of say, okay, food was preserved in alcohol within these certain large empires. So if you can deal with drinking a lot of alcohol, then you are most likely going to be able to say that you are a Tartarian traveler or you are linked to a lineage that is the Tartarian lineage. So these maps are really important to me because that's how my journey kind of began. If you notice on this map here, which is the Abraham Ortelius map of 1560, you can see that China was at this point only a small sort of ocean coastal empire, with Korea nearby. You won't see any K's or J's in these maps because that was not introduced to this until the 17th century. Those letters K and J. Um, Actually, the G and the K became interchangeable in the late 16th century. Sorry, 1500. Yeah, this is just my own personal starting place, and it's usually how I try to prove Tartaria exists, which is something I still get asked a lot, even in 2025. the genealogy of the ancient emperors of Tartary. I do read and write a little bit of Chinese. I do speak Chinese a little bit. Also, I also speak and read and write fluent German. So that's helped me. That's kind of made it quite easy when it comes to some of the connections to Genghis Khan. For some reason, the amount of German researchers that began to draw maps and plot the rise and fall of the greater Mongolian Empire, the Manchu Empire, the Han and the Qing dynasty, which become very important later on as Genghis Khan takes over the entire Silk Route. Uh, a lot of um, a lot of really interesting research has been done recently on trying to understand which cities on the Silk Route were possibly the capital of Tartaria. But the most important thing is to remember that Tartaria was more than one empire at this point. So the height of the empire, I would say, was around the 16th, 17th century. Um, China was still not uh, um, uh, given much space to kind of evolve. And the Great Wall of China, as it's known today, is holding back all of these coastal empires here, like China, Korea. So the Great Wall of China, therefore, wasn't constructed to keep out any kind of Turkic people or Tartarian people. It was constructed by the Tartarians to keep out anyone who approached from the ocean. And I know for a fact that if you don't want to have um, an unprotected coastline, this is exactly how the Dutch lost New York, because it used to be New Amsterdam. This is exactly how the British got into China. I think what happened with China and Britain may have been some kind of serious sort of um, uh, uh, what would you call it? An alliance that was probably the beginning of the end of Grand Tartar. So the genealogy shows us here that Genghis Khan would have been considered to be Tartarian, as he was also uh, quoted as being the Emperor of Tartary at one point. I can move to the next slide. That's possible. And so, yeah, I hope you enjoy this introduction into the Mystic Empire. I was going to start with Noah. There were three sons. Japheth was one of those. We go to Gog, and then Gog of Magog is not uh, uh, is not. I mean, in the Bible, Gog of Magog is mentioned a few times. But Magog would then be the father. Gog would be of Magog, therefore the son. So both of these would have been in that lineage. Moses does not speak much about Japheth, but I don't see Japheth as like the evil son of Noah. He was actually one of the ones that kind of saved Noah from embarrassment when he got drunk in one of the biblical stories. Whereas Ham made fun of his father, and I think Shem and Japheth ended up kind of hiding him and giving him the respect he deserved as the patriarch. So I find this to be also symbolism. I think this is also a message in the Bible. There are all kinds of messages. A lot of books have been removed from the Bible. I think initially there were 88. We now only have 66 of those books. Each book of the Bible, it has been my opinion for quite some time, is an important resonance. Just like Campbell was talking about earlier, I think there's a frequency to every book in the Bible. I think every book in the Bible can be linked to everything else. I think this realm is super connected, interconnected. From colors to tones to notes to the frequency of everything we think and do. I think that the original harp, obviously laid flat vertically, is the piano. So you have 88 keys on the piano, 88 books of the Bible. Music and resonance is essential to understanding and to not just hearing what is being said, but to somehow find a place for it or to get what you can for your own ascension, because you are also ascending. Um, you know, up your own ladder of understanding. So then the Scythians come after Gog of Magog. Then the Turkic tribes. I'm not going to go too much into that because there are a lot of people doing great research on the Turkic tribes. And Samarkand, which would have been their capital city. Then we have Tamerlane, a fascinating character. Um, Tamerlane and some of the information about him, some of the documents about him I'm going to go into, because they have crests on them. They have actual moorheads on the crest, the family crest, sigils, which is another thing that I really need to delve into more. Um, I think that's where the Hebrew origin of the English language and the French and the German and the Spanish languages come in so important to kind of see the link between how language develops as this super creative empire starts to get removed from history. Genghis Khan also would be the next in line from that lineage, and then the Mongol Turkic legacy, which is obviously almost the control of the entire world, all the way from the from the Hindu Kush to the steppes of Vienna, the capital of Austria. So uh, then this is my own theory, my final addition, something that I don't think anyone else has researched. Chiang Kai-shek. Now, Chiang Kai-shek was the last president of the ROC out of Peking, and Peking was my second awakening. Because I actually lived in the Republic of China, so I can walk down the street and I can study temples that were obliterated during the Cultural Revolution. Chiang Kai-shek, I have very high quality footage because I'm part of certain groups in the Republic of China that are sharing footage that I don't think anyone in the West would have ever seen before the